The Supreme Court grants President Trump access to end temporary protected status. Live coverage from our D.C. bureau. Searching for answers.
I don't feel like anyone discerned the danger of the situation.
On the cause of the Mexican naval ship to crash into the Brooklyn Bridge. And tips and tricks.
That's a great way for new grads to get additional skills.
On how to land that first job for new college grads. These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I'm Mauro Rueda.
And Stephanie Tenia. Today's Tuesday, May 20th, 2025.
Live from the Lee Caplin School of Journalism and Media in North Miami, this is Caplin News.
A major move by the U.S. Supreme Court is leaving many Venezuelans at stake. This morning, the Trump administration is moving forward with ending temporary protected status for hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans after the Supreme Court revoked the decision.
Our DC Bureau reporter Rosaura Mendoza has more.
Good morning. I'm here in the U.S. Supreme Court, where yesterday announced that it would allow the Trump administration to end the temporary protected status program, which currently protects over 350,000 Venezuelans living in the U.S.
TPS provides legal protection from deportation and work permits for people fleeing countries in crisis. The Supreme Court's decision confirms that the executive branch holds broad power over immigration policy, including who qualifies for humanitarian relief. This decision could lead to the deportation of non-criminal Venezuelans back to a regime many fled in fear. In a statement, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, a Democrat, said, Venezuelan TPS holders fled the Maduro regime and built lives in America. They sought refuge here from his oppression and tyranny. This atrocious decision allows Trump to deport non-criminals back to this murderous dictator. This fight is not over. We must pass my Venezuela TPS Act to keep our community safe. Congresswoman Maria Elvira Salazar, a Republican, also responded, saying, I'm deeply disappointed with the Supreme Court's decision to abruptly end TPS for over 350,000 Venezuelans. We should protect those fleeing tyranny, not return them to it. That's why I'm calling on the Trump administration to grant deferred enforced departure for Venezuelans and CHNV beneficiaries.
For thousands of Venezuelans TPS holders, the future remains uncertain. As legal and political battles continues, many await anxiously to learn if they have to remain in this country where they call home. Reporting from the U.S. Supreme Court, for Caplin News, I'm Rosaura Mendoza.
You're looking live now at the Capitol building where President Trump is about to arrive for a meeting with congressional Republicans. We will keep tabs on the president's meeting on the Hill, and we'll have a full report on Newsbreak tomorrow.
A scholar who was detained by the Trump administration is back home this morning after being reunited with his family. On May 14, Dr. Badar Kansouri stepped into freedom after spending 2 months in an immigration center. A judge ruled that the Trump administration failed to provide evidence that Suri broke the law by spreading Hamas propaganda or promoting anti-Semitism on social media. The reunion took place at Dulles International Airport near Washington, D.C. yesterday.
This morning, we have the latest of the investigation of the crash that killed 2 people last weekend on the Brooklyn Bridge. Caplin News reporter Jason Harrow brings it to us.
New Yorkers strolling the Brooklyn Promenade, stunned as a Mexican naval training ship slams into the Brooklyn Bridge.
Until the boat actually hit the bridge, I don't feel like anyone discerned the danger of the situation.
Flavio Morera was walking with his family Saturday night and caught it all on camera.
Yeah, it hit it, and there was a little bit of commotion.
On board the ship, 2 Mexican crew members lost their lives, and more than 20 were injured. A senior official says the captain told investigators he lost steering after the rudder stopped working.
A los jóvenes, pues nuestro cariño, a sus familias, a las familias.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum shared her condolences with the families of those killed. She says Mexican authorities will conduct their own investigation. Meanwhile, investigators with the U.S. National Transportation Safety Board are in New York, where the ship's data recorder is expected to reveal crucial information.
We will be looking into 3 main areas while we're on scene. First being the crew and the operation of the crew. the vessel and the condition of the vessel, and finally the environment, and that includes the weather.
And as for the bridge, it is back open after a temporary closure.
Information is that there was no any major damage to the bridge.
For Caplin News, I'm Jason Harrow.
Talks continue this morning after President Donald Trump makes an announcement on Truth Social that Russia and Ukraine would, quote, immediately start negotiation towards a ceasefire.
The announcement came after a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin, which Mr. Trump described as excellent.
Big egos involved, but I think something's going to happen. And if it doesn't, I'd just back away and they're going to have to keep going. Again, this was a European situation. It should have remained a European situation. And Europe gave a lot also, but they didn't give anywhere near what we gave. We gave probably almost 3 times the amount. And it's just a shame. The whole thing is a shame.
The president also spoke with Vladimir Zelensky twice yesterday. A neutral nation would be ideal for peace talks. Pope Leo XIV has offered the Vatican for those talks.
This morning, a teenage girl is recovering from a rip current after a fisherman saved her life without even touching the water. Instead, he used a special tool to send her a flotation device. Caplin News reporter Ivan Ulevsky has more on the story.
Thursday afternoon, Pensacola shark fisherman Andrew Smith had just clocked out at work when he reluctantly decided to head to Pensacola Beach to go fishing.
And I wasn't even going to go out, and then my friend convinced me to go.
But he did. 10 minutes later, panic broke out.
I was sitting there, and this girl came running asking if anybody could swim, and I said, no, I absolutely cannot swim. And she was running and screaming, and nobody could swim. So, and her friend was getting sucked more and more out, and I looked down at the drone, and I was like, well, the drone can swim.
That's when Smith sprung into action.
I ran up and grabbed one of them and ran back down to the drone, and I flew it out, and it was a terrible miss. I released it too early. It was really windy. Like, it wasn't close at all.
At this point, the teenage girl had been battling the rip current for 5 minutes.
I was shaking pretty bad. It was nerve-wracking. I about cried.
Smith didn't give up. Another bystander gave him a second flotation device. Bystander Robert Ney then started filming, saying he had never seen anything like that in his life. He added it was apparent the young girl was losing steam very fast.
And I flew it back out, and after the first one, I could kind of tell how windy it was and stuff. So then I lowered it down, and he had to kind of go slower and slower down to her because that was it. That was the last opportunity we were going to have.
In his second drop, the mission was successful.
I lowered it until you could see her hands grab it, and then I lowered it a little more and I released it, and then she climbed on and started like floating.
It took another 5 minutes after Smith dropped the device for the first responders to make it on scene.
If it wasn't for that second drop, she wouldn't have made it. The EMS said she wouldn't have made it, the cops and the lifeguards.
The girl was checked out by a medical team and sent home with a clean bill of health. It happened around 7 p.m. just before Fort Pickens in this 21st C-section of Pensacola Beach. Lifeguards are not set to patrol the beach until after Memorial Day. Smith said if the group of girls were further down the beach into Fort Pickens, he wouldn't have been able to rescue them. Fort Pickens is a no-flying zone for drones, and Smith medically can't swim.
Most people, when they shark fish, they kayak baits out, and I have a seizure disorder. It's not safe for me to kayak at all. I had 2 on Tuesday, so I've had to use drone for like the last year, and I had a mess up with the drone a month ago, and I just got that drone back on Monday. So I just got the drone.
Nate calls Smith a true hero. The teenager's father said he is much more.
He talked to me for like 5 minutes, called me his guardian angel and thanking me and stuff. It was pretty crazy.
The Marlins putting on a show at Lone Depot Park last night.
That's still ahead, and so is the story.
Really important for them to treat looking for their next opportunity like a full-time job.
Moving tassels but scrambling for jobs. We'll bring you some tips to help you land your first job. Post-graduation. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
See us dream. See us remember. See us protest.
You matter. Your feelings matter. Your identity matters. Everything about who you are matters.
See us fight back. See us rebuild. See us shatter stereotypes. See us inspire. See us united. See us now.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
It's an exciting time for graduates all over the country, but millions are looking to secure their first job post-college. In today's competitive job market, many recent college graduates are struggling to find employment.
CNN's Jen Sullivan interviews a career expert to discuss strategies for landing a job.
Graduation is an exciting time for students as many close the chapter on their education and get ready to find their first job out of college.
It's really important for them to treat looking for their next opportunity like a full-time job.
Brandy Britton is a career expert at the recruiting firm Robert Half. She says this can be a challenging time for graduates trying to find a job, and the numbers show that. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York recently released their unemployment data and found nearly 6% of recent college graduates were unemployed. That's about 2 percentage points higher than the national unemployment rate.
Individuals who are willing to go on site for positions, are flexible with what their starting salary is, are being considered for some of the most opportunities.
Robert Half recently conducted a survey about hiring and found 71% of Gen Z respondents said getting noticed and securing an interview is their biggest challenge. Britton also recommends working with a mentor. Utilize your school's career services, connect with alumni in the field you want to enter, and highlight your experiences in college to show relevant skills. Before an interview, she recommends you should always research the company and ask questions.
Consider contract work. That's a great way for new grads to get additional skills.
It can take college graduates 3 to 6 months to get hired, so be patient. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
The Miami Marlins earned their 4th win in the last 5 games to start their series against the Chicago Cubs. After losing an early lead, Jesus Sanchez became the hero by hitting a 2-run triple to walk it off for Miami. The final score was Marlins 8, Cubs 7. We get to see this series continue tonight at Lone Depot Park for Game 2.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Stephanie Tenia.
I'm Mauro Rueda. Get more news anytime at caplinnews.fiu.edu.